guys, so today I'm going to be talking about the November 2021 full moon. So this full moon is going to be taking place on November 19th. It's going to be in the sign of Taurus at 27 degrees, and it's going to be happening around 3:57 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Another significant thing about this full moon is it's going to be one of the full moons where there is a lunar eclipse. So lunar eclipses happen with full moons, solar eclipses happen with new moons. So actually our next new moon in December is going to be associated with a solar eclipse. So all the full moons have names that go way back in history, and the name most commonly associated with this November full moon is the Beaver moon. A couple other names that might be associated with it are the morning moon, the frost moon or frosty moon, or the bear moon. But again, the most commonly associated name for this November full moon is the Beaver moon. This is because full moons were named to go along with things that were happening seasonally. So beavers would typically set their traps before the swamps froze. So that was a reason why the full moon was named the Beaver moon. And another reason is just that this is the time period where we are starting to get ready for winter, where beavers start to get ready for winter. So that is part of the association with that name for the full moon. So the spiritual association with why the full moon is called the Beaver moon. Beavers are creative, they work towards their goals, they are hardworking. Lots of energy associated with this particular new moon being the Beaver moon. And where it falls in the sign of Taurus as well, that energy is also amplified because of that hardworking association with beavers with the sign of Taurus. So this full moon is also going to be taking place at the same time as a lunar eclipse. So it's a partial lunar eclipse, meaning that it's not a full lunar eclipse. About 98% of the moon's diameter is going to be dark. Lunar eclipses happen a few times a year, around 2 or 3, so it's not extremely unusual, but it is significant on a spiritual level as well. When there are eclipses, whether it be lunar or solar eclipses, usually there's an association with change of some sort, a beginning, an ending, something unexpected. Now, because this is the lunar eclipse and not the solar eclipse, these changes, endings, transformations, beginnings are more associated with things related to the moon, such as emotions, intuitions, things along those lines. It's very possible that feelings that we weren't aware of will come up around this time, things that we may not have even known about ourselves or about other people, things regarding emotions, but it might be stuff that comes up that, again, we hadn't thought of before or is completely new to us, or things are going on where there's just some change happening, transformations, endings, beginnings, and they might not be super noticeable, but if you keep an eye open for it, you might start to notice it, especially because it could happen at a more inward level. Now, that's not to say things might not just change in your everyday life, because that could happen as well. Lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, they can be significant for specific people. It just depends. And when I say it depends on what's going on in your specific birth chart and how the lunar eclipse is affecting your birth chart personally. So not everybody is going to experience change, endings, beginnings associated with this lunar eclipse, but some people definitely will. And again, you might notice something on a more subtle level, or you just might be more emotional, more aware of your emotions, have some kind of epiphany on an emotional level, or have some kind of awareness that you didn't previously have. But overall, whenever there's an eclipse, it could bring about something unexpected, something that, you weren't prepared for, a surprise. It could be positive, it could be challenging, it just kind of depends. So aspects that this full moon is making. So we have, obviously, opposite of the sun, because whenever there's a full moon, that means the moon is directly opposite the sun. So because of that, we might be feeling kind of out of sorts, a little bit confused, or just a little bit off balance, and that's always kind of associated with the full moon because there is that opposition every time there's a full moon, but it kind of puts our emotions directly across from our drive, our energy, our identity, and it can be enlightening or it can be a little bit challenging. So we also have the moon is going to be opposite Mercury, so it's definitely good to think before you communicate something to somebody else, because emotions might get, involved in everything around this time whenever the moon is significantly involved. So when it's opposite Mercury like that, you want to just be careful with your communications. Just think before you speak, or maybe double check a text message to make sure that you are coming across the way you want to come across. The moon is going to be squaring Jupiter, so there could be issues with overindulgence, excess, greed, anything along those levels, or just feeling like you're having a challenging time growing in a direction that you want to grow in. Jupiter is associated with growth, and sometimes when you have that moon square Jupiter like that, there can be these feelings of, am I doing this right? Why aren't I progressing? How come I'm not reaching my goals? And there could be some feelings of, self-doubt or frustration. So that will be temporary though. It's not lasting a long time, very quick. And then we also have the moon trining Pluto. So with that, Pluto can be, digging deep, trying to find the truth to things, and the moon, again, is emotion. So the truth may come out around you with others' emotions, or somebody might be more honest with you, or you might have a revelation of sorts within yourself or with another person. Something might be revealed, they might reveal it to you. And this would typically be associated with something positive, although it might not feel like it in the moment. So what type of energy is associated with a full moon? Different than the new moon, around the full moon, it's a great time to release baggage, to let go. If you are doing work with the phases of the moon, if you set any intentions or goals around the time of the new moon, this would be a great time around the full moon to have a look at those. What worked, what didn't, what could be changed in order to progress further down the road. Also around the full moon, you might notice that goals you have or hopes that you have, things are being completed, or they might, be progressing, or they might not be progressing at all, and it's a really good time to acknowledge that and to let go of what isn't working. The full moon is a time when things just really come to a climax. It can be an exciting time. There can be a lot of emotions around the time of the full moon, passions, and it can really, they can go all over the place. So it might be a climax that is very positive and happy and exciting, or there might be something going on where things just kind of like come to a head, and that's a necessary situation, that things do come to this point, but it might be difficult in the moment. With this full moon energy, you could be feeling, like I said, out of sorts, but you could also be feeling a little nervous, on edge, anxious, jittery. The full moon is a really good time to detox, again, to release some baggage, to let go of things. It's a great time to acknowledge, again, what is and isn't working, but to also acknowledge things that you're grateful for in your life, or to acknowledge things that you just kind of need to forgive and put energy into forgiving things within yourself, within other people. If you're comfortable with that at this time, it is a beneficial time to just take a look at everything and figure out, what is it that makes you happy? What is it that maybe you're holding on to? And there needs to be a process in order to be able to let go of. So with the full moon, we are heading from light to dark, whereas with the new moon, you're heading from that dark moon towards light. So there is this feeling of wanting something to happen, or there could be, wanting to accomplish something, wanting something to, go on, an event to occur, this like feeling of being amped up, and there could be disappointment or a bit of, feeling let down if things aren't happening the way you expected them to, or if you were trying to accomplish something and it isn't going as planned, or if you just had this feeling like something's going to occur and then it doesn't, because there is that energy surrounding a new moon where you feel, or you could feel, like something is about to happen, and it very well might happen. Something very well might happen. Full moon energy is significant and intense, but every full moon does not have this energy for every single person. It's different, depends where it is in your chart and what areas of your life it is affecting. But overall, you could feel pressure to make a move, to make a decision, to make something happen, to just do something in general. And full moon energy can also bring about the impulsiveness in all of us, even if it's more dormant in some. We could be more impulsive, we could make more of a rash decision. So around the full moon, it is good to just kind of relax, keep it low-key if you can. Things that can be helpful during the full moon, like I just said, relax, take a breath, focus on yourself, really think things through, be cognizant of your actions, because things can definitely go awry around the time of a full moon. It can be helpful to take a look at anything that's holding you back, any baggage, any weights that might be holding you down, holding you from being happy, and letting go of certain things, letting go of any negative things that you have associated towards yourself, any negative feelings, anger, doubts. And I know this is way easier said than done, but just being more aware during these times can be very enlightening. It's a great time to work on yourself, to detox, to release, to let go, to forgive, even just taking an hour or two to spend some time on yourself and to really, focus in on things that might be bringing you down and how to just let go of them. But it's very helpful to identify, if you can, what needs releasing and what needs appreciation, and trying to give time and space to both of those things. Manifestation work, it's a great time to do anything involved with that around the time of the full moon. So this full moon is in Taurus at 27 degrees. What exactly does that mean? Taurus can be ambitious. There can be things going on involving money. Status is important. Taurus energy can be conventional, sometimes a bit stingy. Taurus full moon, that's typically a good placement, but with this degree and with that square to Jupiter, there could be this inclination to, hold on to things a little bit too tightly. Taurus is that middle of spring energy. It wants to be comfortable, it wants to enjoy, and it does want to move forward, but it wants to move forward at its own pace. And sometimes that's why Taurus energy or Tauruses can get a little too stuck in routines or stuck, in a certain situation for too long a period of time, because they can get comfortable, and this full moon brings about these kind of feelings of being stuck in certain patterns, habits that feel comfortable, and maybe we don't want to stop doing them, but it's not helpful and it's not a good habit or pattern. Taurus is a fixed sign, it's a bit stubborn, and the full moon wants us to release, to let go, to think about moving forward. So this can be a contradiction between the full moon energy and the Taurus energy. This will be a slower, steadier full moon. It's not going to be quite as impulsive or aggressive as some other full moons in different zodiac signs. But the problem is that we may not feel as willing to do the work that maybe we need to do around this time, or even just make certain acknowledgments or understand things that maybe aren't benefiting us going forward. It might be harder to do that kind of stuff with this full moon energy. Could be feeling, like I said, comfortable where we are, maybe even a little bit lazy, and not willing to acknowledge things that may be holding us back. Or maybe we are willing to acknowledge things, but we don't feel like actually doing anything about it, Just not in the mood. We could be feeling discouraged. We could just be, like I said, kind of lazy, not really willing to even focus on, certain topics that I've been discussing in this video. That all being said, it actually can be helpful with this full moon to indulge in yourself a bit, to do things that you find pleasurable. If you're doing that, if you're taking some time to, indulge in yourself a little bit, it could actually make it easier to come to realizations of things that might need to be let go of. And you might not have things to let go of. But if you're actively working towards something, even if you're not actively working towards something, but if you have goals for yourself, it's always good around the time of the full moon to just kind of look at yourself, look at your situation, and think, okay, is there anything that is making it more complicated or making it harder for me to get to a spot that I want to be in? And if so, those are some things that you want to maybe let go of or work out and work around, or get rid of when it's the full moon time. Or at least establish things that maybe are holding you back, or things that you're doing that hold yourself back, so that you can start to work on these things going forward. The other thing that might be a bit of an issue with this full moon energy is Taurus is very perseverant. They continue to work towards their goals, or they're very hard workers. So that Taurus energy is very hardworking. And the other thing is that Taurus energy is quite stubborn. So there might be this kind of single-minded focus of trying to go, get things done, keep pushing, but not taking a second or not taking a bit of a time out to be like, okay, there's a few things here that are an issue, and if I could work through them and kind of take a second to point out what they are, maybe moving forward on a journey towards a goal, whatever it is that you're doing. And these don't have to be like work goals. It could be all sorts of different goals, intentions you have for yourself. But it's always good to take a little bit of a breath and kind of say, okay, what's working, what isn't, like we keep talking about. But that Taurus energy might want to just bulldoze through that and not take the necessary time that's needed in order to actually make things easier in the long run. So full moons are a good time to relax in general, to not overdo it. This particular full moon could bring about questions regarding any type of security, and that could be financial, emotional, physical security, anything along those lines. It might be something that you are, just comes into your life as an issue, or it might be a concern, or it might be something that you're trying to better establish for yourself. And perhaps an opportunity to do that comes around the time of this full moon. So I also like to look at how the full moon affects us as a whole, as a society. I do live in the United States, so just keep that in mind if you don't. This full moon, there's a lot of squares going on. There's a square with the US chart's natal moon, there's a square with the sun, with Mercury, and there's a conjunction with Jupiter. So society-wide, this could be a particularly challenging full moon. It might be more uncomfortable than anything else. There could be themes of greed, of overdoing something. Tensions are high. People are just not on the same page, and this full moon is showing that that is continuing. There's poor communications. Emotions are confusing. They're running high around this time. And with this full moon, it's transiting the 6th house, so I think something might become more complicated when it comes to, as a society, our day-to-day, our daily routine, our purpose, our work, anything involving that. So there could be more issues involved with employment, anything along those lines. There might be, communication issues that become prevalent. But again, I feel like tensions are just going to be running high, emotions are going to be high, and people are just having a hard time getting on the same page, which, that's something that happens all the time, but it's becoming more prevalent around this time. You might just feel this sense of discomfort, a little bit of tension, and just the inability to establish a type of communication that, isn't based in emotion, but also a communication that allows people to kind of come to a bit of a middle ground. So that's just kind of what I'm seeing around this full moon energy. Not to be negative, just it is a particularly challenging full moon with that square, several squares. And then the conjunction with Jupiter in the 7th, there could be an opportunity for compromise, or it could be that, conflict becomes more prevalent. So just some things to keep in mind. I don't want to focus too much on that unless that's something you want me to focus on more in the future. Just let me know. Lastly, on the screen, I'm going to put an image of where the full moon will be transiting for you, dependent on your rising sign. So make sure you know your rising sign for this. So in this image, I've just written which rising sign is going to be affected by the full moon in which house. So just look for your rising sign, and that is the house that the full moon will be transiting for you during this time. And these are certain topics that might come up for you, like that are associated with the house that your rising sign is in. So that is a full moon. That's the Beaver moon. Let me know what house the full moon is going to be transiting for you, and make sure to like and subscribe. I will see you in my next video, and have a good day or night.